When Elden Ring Nightreign was revealed, I kind of knew that this game was going to be pretty up my alley. I am addicted to From Software's combat and boss design, so the simple act of getting a huge sword with some new champions and playing around with those was something that I knew I was going to enjoy. However, I think that most of us knew just from the trailers and just from kind of what we saw early on that this wasn't going to be a 10 out of 10 From Software game. This was a what-if experiment kind of game, and in my honest opinion, it does work pretty well. However, there are some flaws in this game that feel kind of just baked in, and it would be really hard to actually fix some of the flaws. But there are still some flaws in this game that probably shouldn't be there, and maybe they can be fixed in future patches, so I have a list here of things that I would like to see improved in Elden Ring Nightreign. If I missed something that you think needs to be improved in this game, you can always let me know down in the comments below. Okay, I'll just start with the one that we all know about. This game desperately needs more Dark Souls 1 to 3 bosses because it's a fun callback for Souls players and it's easy nostalgia bait to hook new players into the game. We only got 2 bosses from each Souls game, and look, I'm not a game developer. I'm not here saying that it's super easy to port bosses from previous games into Elden Ring's individual engine and use it as a unique asset. I'm not saying that at all, but I assume that remaking an enemy is way easier than making brand new enemies. There are a ton of great assets that can be used in Dark Souls 1 to 3 that are just sitting there waiting to be used. Plus, Dark Souls 3 assets were used heavily throughout the base game of Elden Ring, so I have to assume that those assets are really easy to use. Not only that, but we even have some bosses from Dark Souls 1 in Elden Ring, such as the tree avatars are the beginner boss in Dark Souls 1. So again, I am not saying this is an easy task, but I really feel like that this game desperately needs a few more bosses that are just kind of fun callbacks, and there are so many that can be used in the older games. Even something like Artorias would be such a great addition to this game. Okay, so why are people asking for more bosses? This game has a lot of Elden Ring assets, so there's clearly a lot of bosses, and while that is true, there are 2 bosses from the Dark Souls games, and the rest of the non-Nightfarer bosses are reused assets from Elden Ring, so having a different reused asset was honestly better at this point because we've all played 200 or so hours of Elden Ring. I was even thinking that the Blazing Bull in Sekiro might even be able to work, but with how different those 2 games are, I kind of assume porting assets like that into Elden Ring Nightreign is just kind of off the table. So if we do need more bosses, that's mainly because the randomness of this game is really lacking, and it shows. Now, this is the lowest hanging fruit, so I'm not going to go on too long about it. We've all heard the complaint that the randomness of this game is really lacking, but it goes deeper than that. I'm kind of at the point where I still enjoy Nightreign, but when I want to load up and play a boss, I have to deal with Limvale for 30-40 minutes in order to get the boss. In fact, I did a run solo today where I spent 45 minutes in the Limvale area, and then I had 6 minutes with the boss. This was a 45-minute run back because I really had no desire to do more Limgrave enemies. I've done them all in Nightreign for the past 3 or 4 days. I've already put close to 30 hours in this game, and all those hours I've played Elden Ring. I can hop on something like Hades right now, and while you will definitely have some zones that feel somewhat familiar, I still get way more random encounters with the different gods or enemies than Nightreign offers me. Plus, with how lame some of the upgrades are in Nightreign, it really just kicks this issue even harder. And I hate to say it, but we're not done with this issue yet. If I'm already saying that and this game has not been out for 1 week yet, that's a real issue. If I'm already getting a little bit tired and I've played the game for longer than the average person, I will admit, I will fear this game will not offer many desires for players to come back after they've taken a break from the game. And because your average run is going to be at least 30 minutes, most likely 40 to 45 minutes before you even reach the boss. I don't really think this would be the right choice for Nightreign in general, but I've started to wonder if you should have a boss replay mode after you've killed a certain boss 2 or 3 times, because I really and truly have no desire to do a 30 to 45-minute run for some of the worst Nightfarer bosses in the game, but I wouldn't mind fighting them once or twice again just because it's a unique boss I've only killed once. Now, that's okay that I think this is a built-in issue within Nightreign because I want more of this stuff from Software. In my previous video, I said, hey, maybe this is the right thing to do with each new Miyazaki game that's the clear main focus game. From what I've seen with the Duskbloods, it seems like a fun spin-off game that's more finished and more high quality with new assets than Elden Ring Nightreign, but I don't think it's going to be his next grand opus masterpiece like how Elden Ring is. Kind of like how Sekiro was, just a warm-up for Elden Ring. We shove it full of content, and then we do an asset reuse game like Nightreign, and then they can sell even more copies, and because of that, it would be a healthier From Software, and I think it would be worth it because I think that Elden Ring Nightreign does a lot of great things in the game itself. But if we do this sort of thing again, I do not want to do 45-minute runs of just one area and lame-ass upgrades. It's not extremely tiring yet, but I know for some people, they will get worn down faster than I will. Okay, so I think this one is the important one, and I really hope that From Software does their best to not split up the player base when the DLC bosses come out. If I'm being honest, I really don't know how they're going to manage that, because with the knowledge that I have, there will be DLC bosses that are paid. So if From Software does split the player base apart, that means that the player base is going to be smaller for people that own all of the content. If you're trying to queue up to find the DLC boss, well, not everyone's going to have the DLC, and some people that do have the DLC are not going to be queuing for that boss, so you just won't be able to find people. Now, I can already hear the platitudes. Well, they just did a solo patch today, so you can play the boss solo. And let me tell you something, the run that you're seeing right now was a solo run, and it was way less fun than a match with 2 random players or even 2 friends. That's because I think Elden Ring Nightreign's biggest strength is the champion kits. I think they're all super cool, and they're even underrated. I haven't heard as many people champion these champion kits, because I think they're fucking awesome. So when I was doing my solo run, I was only seeing Wilder's abilities. I didn't get to see Recluse, I didn't get to see Duchess. It was all just my champion kit, and while it is fun doing bosses solo, this is the only From Software game where I want to play with other people. In Elden Ring, in Dark Souls, I always do everything solo. I don't summon, it's just how I like to play, but in this game, with all the different champion kits and how some of the bosses are designed, it's way more fun playing with random people, in my opinion. So if the DLC bosses are going to be splitting the player base apart, after a month or so, I really don't know how easy it will be to find players to do the DLC bosses with you, especially because we have to see the retention rate of this game. Right now, the graph looks pretty healthy. People are not leaving in droves. It's just a normal dip. If anything, the dip is a lot less than you would think. The game isn't super old yet, but people are naturally going to fall off, and people are going to naturally not buy the DLC to the game. And it would be a real shame if some of these bosses just couldn't be found with random players after a few months or even a year. Now, with all of that being said, I want to remind you, I absolutely love Elden Ring Nightreign, and from what I said about not wanting the player base to be split apart, it may sound like I'm begging for this game to be a live service game, and let me just be clear, I am absolutely not. I am burnt out of live service games. I don't play live service games, and when a live service game fails, I shrug my shoulders and say, you know what? You can make a $40 game and let the game just naturally lose players over time, and it'll be completely fine, I'm sure. From Software has proven it. So, before we end the video, let's just give From Software a round of applause for never giving in to greed. Every single From Software game is an absolute masterpiece at this point. Even something like Armored Core, didn't love it. I know it's a good game. Elden Ring, 10 out of 10 game, you got it. Shadow of the Erdtree, it's a whole game within itself. These games are fucking awesome, and so is Nightreign. Elden Ring Nightreign has 0 microtransactions, 0 greed, and 0 Battle Pass FOMO. Live service games are made 99% of the time solely out of greed, and From Software has yet to fall to that sin. Anyway, that is that. If you do have something you want to tell me that you want to see improved in Elden Ring Nightreign, you can definitely let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, thank you for liking, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.